Ella.
Ella, Ella.
Ella, Ella.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hi, what's up?
So we're back for another episode of RNB.
Welcome back to episode 5.
Episode 5. So you guys might have been wondering, yo, where my people at last week? But
yeah.
the struggle was real, let me tell you all. We had tests, we had lab, we had so much stuff to do, it's not even funny. But we are so happy to be back here at the RNB studios where we came to share our thoughts and ideas with you.
We just came to party, honestly.
Hey.
Just kidding.
How
are you guys? It's been a minute.
We missed you.
Yeah, but...
So during our break, we did a little thinking about like the structure of the show and how we want the show to go. And we think that we're going to move our get to the point segment to the front. Because when people watch the show, they want us to get to the fucking point. Our show usually has a title, and that title is what attracts people. So we want to make sure that we're getting to that as fast as possible. So let's get to the point. A.
Sorry. I thought it was Robert who did it. I was like, what the heck? Alright, but anyways, what are we talking about this week, Robert?
This week's Get to the Point is going to be a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about toxic masculinity. And I know a lot of y'all probably sitting at home like, toxic masculinity? What the fuck is that?
I feel like a lot of people have heard the term toxic masculinity used, but no one can really define it, you know, even though it is a quite simple definition. So we had to look it up, and we just want to educate our listeners and our viewers so we can have a good conversation about it.
Alright, so the definition for toxic masculinity is it's defined by adherence to traditional male gender roles that restrict the kinds of emotions allowable for boys and men to express, including social expectations that men seek to be dominant, the alpha male, and limit their emotional range primarily to expressions of anger. So that was a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, but I think everyone has experienced toxic masculinity in their lives, and in probably every day. And since this is about men, I will let you give your opinion first.
Alright, so...
in true tradition.
Tried it. So I think that this whole idea of toxic masculinity starts from a very young age, where we are raised as like men, or not men, but boys are meant to like blue and meant to like sports. And if you don't, then there's something wrong with your child. You know, you feel like, why isn't my kid playing sports? Why doesn't he like the color blue? Like, you know? And the fact that the only reason why people are doing that, the crazy part is because society told them to. What happens if back then society was like, oh, the guys like pink? Then all of a sudden everybody would like pink, and it wouldn't be...
Well, I don't even think it's necessarily about liking a certain color, because, I mean, girls can like blue too, but I think what it more is associated with is when, you know, people are pregnant with kids and when they have the babies, their gender is associated with a color. And like, just like I just said, women, girls, whatever, can like the color blue, they can like any color they want, but God forbid that a little boy or a man like the color pink, because men aren't allowed to be feminine, whereas it's okay kind of for a girl to be a tomboy.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that like, it's just really funny because as parents, people like have kids and they already have an expectation of what this kid's gonna do. Oh, my son's about to be a basketball player. He's about to be famous. He's about to be getting all the girls. And I'm like, this kid isn't even born yet, and you're talking about him getting all the girls.
Or grown up, they don't even know their identity. And I think that also stems into the other conversation of people accepting their kids' sexuality. Like, you know, a lot of parents have little boys as kids, and they expect them to, you know, be football players, be basketball players, whatever, be these big macho men. But what if your kid is not like that? What if he's homosexual, you know, and he wants to do other things? And growing up in an environment where you feel like you have to adhere to a certain ideal, people struggle to find themselves and to find their identity, and that creates a lot of mental issues. Anyways, I digress. That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, so back to the toxic masculinity. I think that like a lot of people do it to their children by accident. Like I said, I think it's like a social norm type of thing.
Like they embed it in like their rationale of how they should be and how they should act. Yeah,
so in my own personal example, I'm like, my parents, two great freaking amazing individuals, and like I don't think it's them. I think that the black culture in general, I was raised where like say like you are crying because you're upset because of whatever. A typical response would be, "Shut up! Stop all that crying before I give you something to cry about." And it's like, oh, okay. So instead of like actually coming down to the reason as to why you're upset and why you're having those emotions, it was like, oh, just turn it off, which is great and everything, because I mean it showed me that like don't let your emotions run you, don't let it overrun you, all that good stuff. But now the issue is is that I am emotional, not emotional. I am not emotional to a fault. So people might hear that and be like, "Oh, that sounds like that's great. Not having emotions, that's great." And like at times, yes. Why? Because I don't deal with fuck shit. I don't really get hurt that much. That's just nothing that really happens to me. But at the same time, when it's time to be like vulnerable and open up, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I've been friends with you for a long time, so I can see that happening all the time. And I do think that it is something that you have to work on because that was the way that you were raised, and I understand kind of why they did it. But at the same time, if you're gonna have any fruitful connections or relationships, friendships, anything like that, you are going to have to be vulnerable, especially in a relationship, because you're getting to the core of who you are and trying to share that with someone else. And if you're not letting them know how you feel about something, then
so I get the whole like if I'm not open, it's not gonna work. I just think it's a lot easier said than done.
no,
Just because,
absolutely.
yeah, my whole entire life I've been trained to like act one way and to react to situations in a certain way. So it's like kind of ingrained in me and kind of like embedded in me. But I think that like in terms of like the way I was raised, that's the only part that would be toxic masculinity. I mean, yes, I was like steered to basketball. I played basketball my whole entire life when I was a child, and I was steered to sports. So I played like all sports, but mainly basketball. But I played soccer, I played football, I played a whole bunch of stuff. And I mean, now that I am an adult, I realize that like I am a lot more creative, and that like I wish I would have been like pushed towards guitar or like expressing myself in a more
Something that's kind of like less masculine, I
yeah,
guess.
or less masculine, or just something more creative, in my opinion. But I mean, the issue with toxic masculinity is that, like, how do I explain this? This is gonna be a little cycle. So you have a guy. The guy's raised by his dad. Dad always wanted a son. Great, he finally gets a son. So he raises his son to be the person that he wants him to be. You're gonna play football. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. You need to get all the bitches. You need to do this. You need to do that.
You tried it. You need to get all the bitches. But okay, just like to interject for 1 second. Of course, little boys want to be just like their dad, but it's also moms that push their sons to be masculine.
Yeah.
I think I don't even know if it's like just in general, but I know that like back in the day, moms wanted their kids to be like masculine, and they also wanted them to find like women and have families and stuff like that. And I think that people had the misconception that if you weren't a super macho guy, then no one was gonna be interested in you. So yes, men, but also women.
Yeah, so then the mom and the dad force this kid to, become this person, and now we have this guy out in the world who treats people like shit because the issue is not masculinity. When you're masculine, that doesn't mean that you're disrespectful or that you're pushy or that you're arrogant. That's not.
I think that's what it turns into.
Yeah, exactly. That's where toxic masculinity comes into. But just being masculine doesn't mean that you have to be a dick.
Because you can be sensitive and masculine, and I think that's the ideal combination.
Yeah, for sure. So back to my scenario. This kid's out in the world, and I mean, I'm just gonna go by my own personal like experience, but for some reason, girls actually are attracted to this hyper masculine guy who's, oh, I go to the gym all the time and I'm super buff. Yeah, but for some reason, girls like are interested in that.
Yeah.
So then once again, that's reinforced. So then that guy is rewarded for his shitty behavior, and then he has a son. And then what does he do? I mean, I got my wife like this. I went through life like this, and I got, for some reason, it seems like that type of behavior is rewarded a lot more than it should be.
I think part of that is like some weird, like primal instinct, you know what I mean? Because I think that the whole reason that people even developed this in the first place was because men are supposed to be the providers, And so a provider can't be too emotional, or then they're not going to be able to go out and gather food and defend their family and stuff. Like, you have to be tough, you know? And so I think it started from way back when humans were created, and it's just evolved into this. And so, yeah, people raise their sons to be super macho and emotionless because you're supposed to be the providers of your family. You're supposed to protect your family, but how can you protect your family when you're crying in the corner is what they see, you know? And I think that it wasn't always supposed to be something bad and something negative, but I think once you put that type of mentality into someone's head, and then men already just being very dominant people, I feel like in general, it just turns into something very toxic. You know, it's like when someone goes on a power trip, you know, you give someone a little bit of power, and then it just turns into this just massive, like, toxic situation, to where a lot of the men in society see themselves as alpha, and they try to be above other men, and then any men that don't behave the same way as them, they're looked down upon, and they try to start fights, they try to start arguments, like bar fights, you know, all this stuff, just to assert their dominance over people and their wives.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I can definitely say that I've like experience with this. I mean, even with the guys that you used to talk to. So as you guys could probably see, we are like really close in terms of like friends and shit. Mm-hmm. So I'm a very like laid back guy who's confident in who I am. So for some reason that definitely like triggers guys in terms of like the people that you're talking to, and I get it. I get why, because when you have somebody who's around somebody who you're interested in, and they're super confident in who they are, and they're not really pressed about you guys being together, it automatically becomes a competition, which is funny because there really is no competition, because we're both of us are playing in different playing fields, but they feel like, oh, this guy's trying to, you know, step up on my territory.
Yes, and they see me as, well, not me in particular, but I think a lot of men see women as territory, and that's where like the whole I need to assert my dominance over this other guy comes from, especially in friendships. But not only does that happen with men, that also happens with girls, like out of jealousy, but I think more so for girls, it's I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my man to this girl, where it's like I just need to be better than this guy that my girl is friends with, like, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think for men, it's like, this is mine, and the fact that he is taking a part of what's mine, because I mean, the overall bottom line is that our connection is going to be like better than most, especially with better than people that we're like talking to, just because they haven't known you as long, they don't know, you know, who you are as a person or some shit like that. So I mean, it's threatening, and like I get it, and I just sit back and I laugh, because I'm like, it's so funny to me, because I'm like, I see the person getting upset, I see them like getting in their head like, oh, this guy, you know, he won't say it, but I mean, I know he likes her, blah blah blah, and I'm like,
literally every single time that I'm dating or talking to someone, I just know that Robert is going to be some sort of issue or conversation that we have to have, because me and Robert are extremely close, and when people see us interact so freely and, you know, be so close, they're threatened by it, because it's like, wait, why are you guys so close? Why aren't you dating? Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? Oh, why you laugh so much more with him? Like, you know, people get really threatened by things, and it just sucks, because I wish that men weren't so like, I gotta be like alpha male to each other, so that I could just like bring people around, and it would be just a relaxed situation where we can all just have some drinks, sit down and talk. But like, there's so many stories. The one that sticks out in my head is, do you remember when I was dating that guy? Let's call him Phil.
Okay, Phil.
It's a terrible name.
Okay,
it's not a terrible name, but it's just very far off from who he is. He's not a Phil. But we were at like this food truck event, and it was just me and Robert. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
And we ran into him, and he, when I like tapped him, he like turned around and looked at both of us, and we're like, oh. I'm like, whoop! And now, oh.
It just always has to be like awkward tension and like stupid awkward jealousy, and I'm like I said, it's funny to me. I laugh at that shit, because I mean, to me it's entertainment, but I mean, I get why people like can be uncomfortable. But okay, going back to the whole toxic masculinity thing, we talked about like how it can come from parents and how it can be ingrained in you from like your parents or whatever. But I think what also needs to be talked about is how like your schooling and like what you go through during your schooling also shapes you. So when you're going through adolescence and you're going into high school, middle school, all that bullshit, let's just stick with high school. There's so many people who I was on the basketball team. So
Robert was such a cool guy.
there was a lot of it that was about like proving yourself, like, oh, I'm better than him, blah 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 blah. And you would think, oh, it's only in basketball, but it was never just basketball. It always goes to the next thing. Oh, I'm better than you at picking up chicks. Oh, I'm better than you at driving. I'm better than you. Like, like you always have to compete to be the best. And like that whole jockey douchey guy is a real thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that just reminded me of another story. So I used to date this guy, and he had a roommate that was a photographer, and he was a very handsome person. So of course he was able to like pull a lot of girls, whatever. And to him, it was just sort of like a competition with himself. Like, how many girls can I sleep with? And I remember him telling me that back in the day, they used to just go out and see who can like get as many numbers or like sleep with as many people. And I'm like, that's just disgusting. Like the fact that I even dated someone who would say that. But that's just disgusting because it just shows that a lot of men don't value women and they see them as a commodity and just as a notch on your bedpost, And I think that's another example of how men our age are really toxic, and how the large aspects of toxic masculinity is that they don't value women, and they don't appreciate them. And I think acts of going out and trying to sleep with as many people as you can and get as many numbers as you can with no intention of furthering anything just shows how much men, not men in general, but a lot of men don't appreciate women and just see them as objects.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think that that's like a game that both sexes play. I've also heard of like girls like, oh, let me go out here and see how many guys I can like ghost. Like I think that that's just kind of our I've had that. I've had girls be like, oh, like you're so cute, da 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 da, and then you go hit them up, and they're like, oh, I was drunk.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily with the intention of ghosting you. You might have just been wasted. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it. I get that, like, going out and doing that is wrong, and that's definitely on the lines of toxic masculinity. But I want to go back to my high school example. I'm going to give advice to all those kids out there who are being picked on by like the cool kid or the jock. And I'm like, you might think that like, oh, he has everything. He has all the girls. He's this, he's that. Just know that the reason why he's being that hyper masculine is because he feels like he is like missing something. So at the same time, like just keep this in mind and know that like, wow, I mean, obviously he has something that he's jealous of.
So you're saying that it like stems from something deeper?
Yeah, it definitely stems from like something deeper, like something like missing, or like maybe he feels like he's gonna be cool because he's picking on you, so it shows that he's like stronger than you or whatever.
Yeah.
But just be cool, stand your ground. I mean, I would never say like fight, but fight if somebody put their hands on you. Shit.
It's kind of like reverse bullying, I guess, in a sense, because it's like those people who are really mean, and then when they are being honest about the way that they feel, they're being mean not because they want to, but because they're protecting themselves. They feel like if I am not macho and if I'm not mean, then everyone's gonna walk all over me, and everyone's gonna make fun of me, and I'm really insecure about that. Because I mean, I'm sure that when a lot of these people who are toxic adults are kids, they have other things that they want to do, and they have other feelings, and they have to learn how to ignore that and put that in the back of their head. And of course that creates a whole set of problems being an adult, and I think that's where a lot of abusive relationships come into.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that we should go ahead and start like talking about, okay, we've talked about toxic masculinity and how it was like created and where it's from and like where it's rooted from and how you can possibly become one of those individuals. But I think that it needs to be spoken about the fact that the reason why it's an issue is because it actually is dangerous. So I think that the point where it becomes dangerous is, okay, so you were raised to like, that like if you want a girl, go get her, macho, blah, 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 blah. And you finally do meet somebody and maybe she's not into you. And maybe she, maybe she rejects you, and maybe she, just doesn't want anything to do with you because you're not used to that type of rejection and you haven't been taught to like emotionally properly regulate your feelings, you don't know how to take it. So then all of a sudden, instead of like just being like, oh, okay, she's not into me, screw it, I'll go find somebody else who is, you take it to the next step. Oh, well, I'm gonna make her into me. She
So this is getting into the conversation of like domestic violence and rape.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like domestic violence and like rape, because then all of a sudden now you're stalking this girl. Why? Because
for sure.
because she denied you, and nobody ever denies you, and she will see that you guys are going to be together, and that, I feel like at that point it's dangerous, and you're imposing on somebody else's life. And I think like women, you have to recognize these signs, because at that point you're in danger and you might not even know it.
For sure. I know that in a lot of cases of rape, it's not even that the guy was horny and he wanted to have sex. It's about being able to control someone, being able to have that power to be like, okay, well, you're not allowed to say no, so I'm going to do whatever I want because I can do that, because I'm stronger than you, I'm more powerful, and I'm going to exert my dominance over you by raping you. So I mean, I can see that a lot, especially because like you see all the cases that are on TV, all these about all these guys who are like raping girls in college by roofing them, and I'm like, if you really had sex with someone, you would not want them to be limp. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not that's not attractive. That's not stimulating. So it's obvious that these men aren't doing this because they're sexually frustrated. They're doing it because, oh, you told me no, I'm gonna show you what I can do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like these individuals are the same people that like do things such as the Pulse shooting, which is really sad and really fucked up to say, but I think that that was an individual who felt a certain way about gay people, or maybe even himself. Maybe he was gay, and he was battling with that.
He was, or he, not that he necessarily was gay, but I know that he was obviously a homophobic person, but then there was something about on the news about him being involved in some type of gay behavior, and so in turn he responded to the way he felt about it, about his homophobia, and possibly being homophobic by shooting up a nightclub.
Yeah, I don't think it was just that. I think that like he probably also had the feeling of, oh, I'm supposed to be like masculine, and I'm supposed to do like this, I'm supposed to do like that, and he probably has all these feelings and emotions. And once again, when you are raised a certain way to not show these or like learn how to regulate them, then when you have them all at once, you don't know what to do with it, and that becomes
emotion at all.
Yeah, that becomes very, very dangerous. And 49 people ended up losing their lives because one guy didn't know how to, come to not even that, come to the terms that he might be gay and like what he might have to do to, deal with that in his everyday life. So I think that like that's when we have to start like dealing with this and recognizing it, because these are the same individuals that are causing mass murders and causing mass shootings.
Do you notice that it's almost never women?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a woman to commit a mass murder?
Yeah, I've never heard of them. I mean, I've seen women on Snapped and shit, but I mean, not
oh
mass murders.
Yeah, and I don't think that's any coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks because like I understand why it happens, because like I said, I'm a guy. I think that like women are blessed in a way where they can experience emotion and deal with it however they like.
But then, people turn that against us, and they feel like we're not fit managers and higher ups because we're too emotional. So it's like, of course, it is a blessing that we're able to express our emotions and feel emotion, but that becomes the defining characteristic of being a woman. And that hurts us in many other ways, just like in the workplace, in education. Women aren't always seen as less. God forbid the woman wants to be the provider in the relationship, or not be a homemaker and have a life, have a career. Women are looked down for not wanting to have kids, while okay, a guy doesn't have a kid because he wants to focus on his career, then okay, that makes sense. But if a woman wants to do that, oh, something's wrong with her, there must be something wrong, no man wants you, is that what the issue is? So it does get turned against women to be seen as people who are emotional, when in reality, I swear to God, men are more emotional than women, but that's not even the conversation.
No, I totally get where you're coming from, but I'm just coming from the aspect of the fact that you guys are able to express that and have your emotions, and it still be respected. So, I mean, in terms of like a guy, I can tell you now, when you go to like, say I am dating a girl and for some reason she wants that macho masculine guy, and I say, yo, like, I don't like this or I don't like that, and I go to express my emotion, the one thing can get me to cut that off real quick is, yo, why are you bitching? You sound like a bitch. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
yeah. I'm like, all right, cool.
Sure.
So then I cut it off, and I cut off all emotion at all, and then all of a sudden it's, why aren't you talking to me? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Why are you being so cold?
Yeah, why are you being so cold? And it's like, okay, when I tried to like open up and let you in, I got responded with, oh, you're being a bitch.
Yeah. So, I mean, the only way that this is going to be fixed in society is for both genders to take accountability for their feelings and their actions and recognize that regardless of your gender, everyone is human. Everyone feels emotions. Emotions are necessary to carry out healthy interactions with other people. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to get a hug, you know? Yeah. I mean, okay, so you talked about kind of being emotionless or raised to hide your emotions. So how do you feel that's affected you in your adult life?
So growing
Story time.
I know, right? Me as an individual, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into like my overall background. You already know this, I am very black and white. So when I say black and white,
like not racially.
Yeah. When I say black and white, I just mean like very one extreme or the other. So the idea of like emotion is a gray. So the issue with that is that it becomes that I sometimes have these emotions, and like I said, I'm very emotionally stable, but when you are starting to like somebody, or you're starting to date somebody, or you're starting to have feelings for somebody, that is not a normal emotion. So on your normal everyday emotions, I'm very good at handling them. I have a very good grasp on it. But all of a sudden you throw some like a little bit of sugar, spice, and everything nice, and I'm like, oh shit, that shit hits me, oh shit, and I'm
you
like,
start feeling emotions, you're like, am I sick? What's wrong? Oh my god!
I just
Someone take my temperature.
I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't know who did this. And like, I think that's where my emotional instability comes in, because I'm like, people. So in order to be in a relationship with another individual, you have to be vulnerable.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I know I'm not good at being vulnerable just because. Like I said, I wasn't taught to be that way. I wasn't taught to show my emotion. I wasn't taught to cry or whatever. So I think that it has stunted me in terms of my emotional growth. But now that I've like realized it and I've recognized it, I think that I'm starting to be able to like take the steps and like I'm noticing it now. Because the first thing you have to do is notice it.
You're definitely more emotional now. I don't think I'm ever gonna like label you as an emotional person, but I mean I am able to recognize your emotions, and that might also be because I know you so well. I mean, you see me every day in class, so when we have class at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., Robert is so grumpy. And I have this running joke with everyone in class that you cannot talk to Robert before 2 p.m. I was like, he will bite your head off. But I was like, just wait until 2 p.m. He'll lighten up. I swear to God. And what do you know? He's laughing again. He's loud, guys. So I've obviously like just been able to see like that little bit of emotion from you, which I feel like maybe before you would just pass off and be like, oh, I'm not angry, I'm not mad, but now you recognize, yeah, I am a fucking grumpy ass person in the morning. And that's such a little thing, but it's a start.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like those little things that like, that's where you start to grow. That's where you start to like realize, okay, maybe I do feel something, maybe I do.
Yeah,
and like sure. the real funny part is like I said, I'm very black and white. So say there's a situation with a girl, that situation is very gray from jump. No matter whatever it is, it's gray. I mean, like when we met, it was gray. It's always going to be gray with a girl, just because it's the idea of
you're like just not sure. You're like, wait, what is this?
It's just the idea of something could, or something might happen, and you're forming a bond with somebody who you don't know where it might go. It could turn into something. So grays is very, very just like the emotion I have for that is confusing. I just don't know, like, the reason why I say black and white is because I feel like you're either with me or you're not, but you can't force somebody to make those type of decisions before they're ready. So it's real weird to like be dating somebody and maybe she's dating somebody else and they're just keeping their options open and stuff like that. To me, that's like a sign of like disrespect, or that like maybe they don't care about me as much, and that's not what it is. It's just that when you're dating, that's what you're doing. You're dating. You're putting yourself out there. You're seeing your options and all that stuff. But at the same time, I'm sitting in the back like, I know this bitch is not.
I know. I totally agree with you. That's what dating is. But just for me personally, then I draw a very clear line. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't like not knowing how I can behave or what I can or can't do. I don't like that. Do you know what I mean? So if we're just dating, then I'm going to limit shit a lot, because you're not going to get all of me right at once if you're out there seeing other people. And I'm the type of person where I date one person at a time. You know what I mean? I'm not like a multiple partner type of person. People. But you know what I mean? So yeah, I just really don't like that. But of course, that's just another conversation.
Yeah, we already talked about dating in our last episode.
Enough about dating,
Go
guys.
ahead, check that out. Link in below.
Link in bio. Just kidding.
But like I said, overall, I'm realizing that I can be emotional. Not that I can be, that I am emotionally stunted, and that like, you know, I just have to go through life and I need to experience things. So when I was younger, the way that I experienced things was that if it was hard or it was tough or it was gray, like I said, I would just cut it out. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, instead of having to deal with it, you just shut it out.
Yeah, so then that resulted in me like cutting off a lot of people out of my life. Like, you know, like, I mean, if you met me, you know, not too long ago, I was looking for a reason. You give me a reason and I am cutting you out of my life. And I think that was like a self-defense.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, it was a self-defense mechanism.
Ineffective coping.
It was a self-defense mechanism for myself, because I'm like, I just had the attitude of like, I don't want to put up with no bullshit. And I'm still the same way. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to put up with no bullshit. But at the same time, I'm realizing that people are people, and that, you know, you have to take people as they are, and you have to have the emotional stability to deal with these situations. Why? Because they're going to happen all the time. That's what life is.
Yeah. And I think another part of you being more emotional is being able to learn and accept the fact that pain is normal and being uncomfortable is normal. You know what I mean? So I think that before, if you felt like any situation was going to cause you any discomfort or any pain, you would cut it off, because you're like, I don't need that in my life. But it's like, you do need pain. You need pain, and you need to be uncomfortable. You need hard times to appreciate the good times. You know what I mean? There's going to be things that are uncontrollable in your life that are going to happen, you know, and you're not going to be able to cut it out. And if you don't have those little situations that are uncomfortable, when that big situation comes that's uncomfortable, you're not going to know how to handle it at all, because you've cut out every other situation in your life that's ever been trying, you know. And I think that those little moments where you would cut people out, that would have built you to be a more sound person and a more stable person now. Not saying that you're not, of course, but you need to experience pain. You have to. Can't
have the sunshine without the rain, baby.
Exactly. It's not always sunshine and butterflies. Yeah. Isn't that like a Maroon 5 song?
You know. And I've just learned that like a lot of all of this has to do with like balance. So like, I've realized that just because things might be going bad, that doesn't mean that things will be bad forever. And that just because things are going good doesn't mean that things are going to be going good forever. I have a lot of tattoos that once again represent the yin and yang of life. And I think that like that's just where people need to like keep their mindset and keep their head at, is that, you know, if shit's bad, doesn't mean it's going to be bad forever. If shit's great, hey, watch it back, because doesn't mean it's going to be great forever. But it'll always balance out at the end. And I want to keep that in mind for all those people who might be getting bullied by that guy at school who is just a super jock and toxic and blah blah blah. Just,
he has bigger issues that are not even about you, and he's way more miserable than you, and he's only trying to make you feel shitty because misery loves company.
Yeah, for sure. And for all those people that are in school and are like, oh, maybe it ends here. There's shitty people all the time. I still deal with toxic masculinity at my own fucking job, just because that's just, like I said, once that's ingrained in you.
Put a man in a managerial position, Lord help us.
Once that's ingrained in you, it's very, very hard to like take out. And I think that not enough people do enough self-reflection to realize, oh shit. I mean, if you hear this and the bullets are pat, 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 pap shooting you, then take a seat and be like,
shoe fits.
take a seat and be like, yo, maybe they're talking about me and maybe I need to reevaluate. It's a natural thing. And I think that once you're able to sit back and you reevaluate yourself, you realize, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, and maybe I did have problems like that. But at the same time, it's not too late to change. I mean, you have to recognize the problem before you can change.
Yeah. Wow, Robert, look at you with your words of wisdom.
That's my dog. My dog is just, giving me all the wisdom juice.
Robert has felt very inspired by this topic.
I know that this is a topic that can cause change and create change. So I think that this is one of the reasons why we made this podcast, is because we want to have those conversations that move things forward.
Mm-hmm. We want to inspire change. We want to inspire openness and accepting other people, we don't need to push people away. We don't need to feel like everyone has to be the same, because everyone's not going to be the same. And the only way that we as a society are going to grow is if we realize that people are different, people are going to be different, and it's okay.
And it's
okay for men to cry. It's okay for men to be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's okay for women to be unemotional and to be the providers, to switch roles. I don't believe in gender roles, and I'm really happy that our generation is kind of getting rid of that,
Yeah, I mean, if you really thought about it, if we were all the same, it would be really boring. So, I mean, if you're weird, fucking stay weird. I mean,
we love it.
I'm weird. So, just say fuck it to all the fucking haters and be like, there's only one you. So, I mean, if you aren't going to be you, then who else is going to do it?
What's the point?
Nobody. And that's the Zoe's line. I see you. But I think that we pretty much got the message out that we wanted to get across.
We got to the fucking point.
We got to the motherfucking point. And we just want you guys to know that this is all these get to the fucking points, and all of our podcast topics is the start of a conversation. We don't ever want to feel like we're preaching at you or we're telling you how you have to feel.
These are just our opinions, guys.
Yeah, so always
mean nothing.
Always feel free to give us your opinion and let us know what you're thinking, because that's why we're here. That's why we're doing it. I mean, I'm not sitting here, going through all this vulnerable shit and, realizing that there's so many people that are going to see this to, not.
All the girls that Robert's talking about are going to be like, wait, hold up.
I'm not sitting here going through that and explaining my experience just because, I want to know where you guys came from and what made you who you are. And if you are dealing with this, or you feel like you have experience with this, give us your story, comment in it in the comments below. And you have no idea, your story can help somebody else.
Exactly, for sure. We want to start the conversation. Tell us what you guys think about toxic masculinity. Tell us about your experience with it. Of course, you can send us an email if you want to. Our email is theofficialrnbpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at theofficial_RNB, and on Twitter. We don't really use it, but I mean, if you want to, it's there. And then my personal Instagram is BRVTT.
And my personal Instagram is Rob Bates. So that's ROBBATESS. So 2 B's, 2 S's. I know it's fucking extra. I get it. But we really appreciate you guys. If you made it all the way down to this part of the podcast, you are a true supporter. Make sure to give us a thumbs up on YouTube, because that will really help us. It shows us that you guys are liking the content, and what we're doing is actually reaching you. And for all those people who might not be on YouTube, we are on your Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, we're on all the streaming platforms. Make sure you leave a comment or a review. That's what it is, a 5-star review. That really helps us. Let's get up in those charts. Tell your friends too, y'all. Tell your friends that you have a cool podcast that you listen to, and that they should listen to it too.
For sure. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around. This is episode 5 of RNB Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, adios.
Bye.